So welcome again. So we started with the second half of the course, which is what? Encryption, right? So the first part was compression. We are done with it now. So now we are into the fourth module, and it starts with encryption. So what we did yesterday was we started with need for security. We started by saying that earlier there was no security because data was considered to be useful but not something to be protected, right? But as financial and personal data started to be stored in computers, it was realized that data on computers is an extremely important aspect of modern life, right? So security began to gain prominence, right? So later on we saw how with the advent of internet the security evolved, right? Then we saw the example by the Russian attacker called Maxim, how he published 25,000 of the 3 lakh credit card numbers he had with him, right? So security and encryption is a very important part of today's world now, especially when we have internet. So then we started with a very important question, which is security goals, and I made clear that there are 3 security goals, which are what? Confidentiality, integrity and availability, right? So apart from those goals, we have some principles of security. So that are together I have done in this slide, right? So what we said, we assume that a person A wants to send a check worth $100 to another person B. So we thought about what factors A and B will think of in such a case. So we saw that first of all, A will like to ensure that no one except B gets the envelope, and even if someone gets it, he or she does not come to know about the details of the check. So this is what about confidentiality. Then we talked about integrity. So integrity is basically, even if someone is able to access the check uh, mentioned above, he should not be able to tamper with the contents of the check. So that is what integrity. So then authentication, right? So B would like to be assured that the check has indeed come from A and not from someone else posing as A, right? So that is what authentication. Then non-repudiation is, now what is happening? A has sent a check to B, right? So bank sees the check and it debits the amount from A's account to and credits it to B's account. But next day A should not come and say that I did not do it. How did you transfer the amount? So what will bank say? That he will use A's signature to disallow A to refute this claim and settle the dispute, right? So this is the principle of non-repudiation. So right, so these are for a particular message we said, and apart from this we have 2 more principles of security, which are what? Access control and availability, right? So first we discuss confidentiality. So what was confidentiality? A is sending some secret to B, right? But what might happen? C might get access to that secret, right? And we are saying C is just getting an access to that secret in this case. We are not talking about editing that secret. So it is what? Harming what? Confidentiality, right? And the attack is called as what? Interception, right? So interception causes loss of message confidentiality. So then integrity. So as I said yesterday, integrity you can loosely call it as honesty. So when the contents of a message are changed after the sender sends it, but before it reaches the intended recipient, we say that the integrity of the message is lost. For example, $100 check was sent, but someone intercepted that message, right? So what word I used? He intercepted that message. So what was compromised? Confidentiality, right? But apart from the confidentiality getting compromised, what is happening? The attacker is also changing the amount from $100 to $1,000, right? So the contents of the message are changed, right? So the integrity of the message has changed. So the message integrity is lost, right? So you can explain this with the help of this diagram. So A wants to send a message to B. So what should be the ideal route? It should be this straight route. But what is happening? There is some person or computer C who is getting access to that message. So actual route is going through C, and the original message was what? Transfer $100 to B. As I said, it should be B here. But what does the person C do? He accesses that message, but not only he accesses the message, but also changes the $100 to $1,000 and changes that B to C. So that is, he is saying don't transfer it to B, but transfer it to me, right? So he has modified the message. That's why this attack is called as what? Modification, right? So modification causes loss of message integrity. So next we said that availability. So if we are talking about systems or broadband internet in today's world, they should be highly available, right? So they should not get any technical issues. So the principle of availability states that the resources, that is information, should be available, and it should not only be available but it should be available to authorized parties at all times, right? And if this service is affected, what is happening? Interruption, right? So what is happening? A wants to access the data of, let's say this is a server, so A wants to access the data from the server, so it should be available, but due to some reason it is not accessible. So this is what it is getting interrupted, maybe because of some deeds done by C. So this attack is called as what? Interruption. So interruption puts the availability of resources in danger. So this is what we saw yesterday. So next is authentication. So what we saw in authentication, suppose that user C sends an electronic document over the internet to user B. But what was the caveat here? The trouble is that user C had posed as user A when he sent this document to user B, right? So what should be there? There should be proper authentication. So this should is one of the principles of security. So this type of attack is called as what? Fabrication. So fabrication is possible in absence of proper authentication mechanism. So we have seen 4 principles of security. So confidentiality, again, what is the threat to confidentiality? Interception. What is threat to integrity? Modification. What is threat to availability? Interruption. What is threat to authentication? Fabrication. I am stressing on these facts because they are very important from exam point of view, and we will see them again in the attacks topic. So next is on non-repudiation. So what is non-repudiation? We saw this example, right? A is sending a check to B and saying that you can debit some amount of money from my account. But tomorrow he says that goes to the bank and says that I never said that, right? So this is what example of non-repudiation. So if he says that actually it is repudiation, right? But he cannot prove it. That is what? Non-repudiation. So that is the difference between non-repudiation and repudiation. So this is what? There are situations where a user sends a message and later on refuses that he had sent the message, right? So non-repudiation does not allow the sender of a message to refute the claim of not sending that message. Again, you can use this diagram to show it pictorially. So next, finally, we saw access control. So what does it do? The principle of access control determines who should be able to access what. For example, you might have only read access to a Word file, for example, means you can only see the file. So if you use Google Sheets, Google Docs, what happens? There are various rights. You see, there is an option. This person can view the file or edit the file. So view file is what? So this is about what? Access control. So you can give this example also in the exam. So as I said, there are myriad number of examples you can give. Not necessarily what I have mentioned in the slide. So access control specifies and controls who can access what. Right? So let's continue further. So today we will be mainly discussing on attacks and security services and security mechanisms. So we already know what are attacks now. So they are divided into 2 types, passive attacks and active attacks. So what are passive attacks? So again, this is not a good example of designing a PPT. What I have done, I have just written some paragraphs. So what should be there? Actually, there should be punch points, and then you elaborate on the points. This is how you should present. So I have written in this way, as I said yesterday, so that you don't have to refer any books. So you can use this PPT as notes only, especially for the encryption PPT. So what are passive attacks? They are those wherein the attacker indulges in eavesdropping or monitoring of data transmission. Remember what we are saying, only indulges in eavesdropping or monitoring of the data transmission. In other words, the attacker aims to obtain information that is in transit. The term passive, so why it is called as passive attack, that is explained now. The term passive indicates that the attacker does not attempt to perform any modifications to the data. Means he is just accessing the data and not modifying the data. In fact, this is also why passive attackers are harder to detect. Now you just think why it will be harder to detect, because he is just reading the data. He is not doing anything to the data. So I may not come to know that someone has attacked me or my data, right? So it is harder to detect because he is not modifying the data. So thus the general approach with passive attacks is what? To think about prevention, that is prevent them from happening rather than detection or corrective actions, because they are not anyways getting modified. So these are passive attacks. So in one line what we can see, passive attacks do not involve any modifications to the contents of an original message. So What are the examples of passive attacks? Passive attacks is nothing but what? Interception. Why? So let's go to confidentiality diagram. So what is happening here? Sorry, interruption, right? Yeah. So what is happening here? A is trying to access the server B, but because of some actions taken by C, is not able to access. So his connection is interrupted. So this is the example of what? Interruption. So interruption puts the availability of resources in danger. So it is a type of what? Passive attack, because nothing is changed in the data. Right? So that is why passive attacks are also called as interception. So what are those types? They are release of message contents and traffic analysis. So let's see what are those. So release of message contents is quite simple to understand. When you send a confidential email message to your friend, what you desire? You desire that only he or she is able to view or access it. Otherwise, the contents of the message are released against our wishes to someone else. So this is attack is called as what? Passive attack, and specifically it is called as release of message contents attack. Using certain security mechanisms, which we'll see in the further slides, we can prevent the release of message contents. For example, what we do, we can encode the message using a code language, so that only the desired parties understand the contents of a message, because only they know the code language, right? For example, we have seen various, remember we have talked about encoding, not of encrypting. There is a difference between encoding and encrypting. What is that difference? We'll see in due course of the lectures. We are just starting with the encryption part, right? So we can use various encoding techniques like Huffman coding also, right? So which technique is used? That the only the decoder or the receiver will know, right? So this is how it can be useful. But what might happen if many such messages are passing through continuously? A passive attacker could try to figure out similarities between them to come up with some sort of pattern that provides us some clues regarding the communication that is taking place. Means what is happening? If the data is continuously going for days and days, so there might be some pattern in the data. It may not be random. For example, for DCT we require what? Correlated data. So there is some relation between the data. So the attacker might see that relation and attempt what is happening. So such attempts of analyzing the encoded messages to come up with likely patterns are called as what? Next type of attack, which is traffic analysis. So he is trying to analyze what is happening in the transferred message. So these are called as what? Passive attacks. So next type of attack is active attacks. So what are active attacks? So unlike passive attacks, the active attacks are based on the modification of the original message in some manner, or in the creation of a false message. So these attacks cannot be prevented easily. Why? Because they are changing the message, right? So however, they can be detected with some effort. Now how can they can be detected? Because we know something has changed, and attempts can be made to recover from them. So these attacks can be in the form of what? Interruption, so which affects what? Confidentiality. Modification, this attack affects what? Integrity. And fabrication, right? So in active attacks, the contents of the original message are modified in some way. So what are the types of active attacks? We have masquerade, modification, and denial of service. So again, modification is divided into replay attacks and alterations, right? So what is masquerade? So masquerade is caused when an authorized entity pretends to be another entity. So we have already seen this attack. So just to revise, let's go there. So this is what? Authentication. So C is telling that I am user A, but he is not actually user A, right? So this type of attack is what? Masquerade, right? Masquerade is caused when an unauthorized entity pretends to be another entity. As we have seen, user C might pose as user A and send a message to user B. So user B might be led to believe that the message indeed came from user A. So user B may be, for example, a bank. So bank will transfer the accounts whatever C is saying, right? So that is a problem. So in masquerade attacks, an entity poses as another entity, and usually some other forms of active attacks are also embodied with masquerade. What are the examples? The attack may involve capturing the user's authentication sequence also. So he is not only posing as the other user, but he might attack use the authentication sequence, for example, user ID and password. So later those details can be replayed again and again to gain illegal access to the computer system. So this is about what? Masquerade. So then we have replay attack. So what you can think about it? It is talking about replay, right? So it is doing the same thing again and again. For example, if we get the username and password, we can again use those to gain unauthorized access to the server or the website. So what happens in a replay attack? A user captures a sequence of events or some data units and resends them. So that is what replay. For instance, suppose user A wants to transfer some amount to user C's bank account. Remember, A to C. Both users A and C have accounts with a bank, same bank B. So user A will send an electronic message to bank B requesting for funds transfer. But what is happening in the transit? User C is capturing this message and sending one more copy of the same to bank B, right? So what is happening? Bank B would have no idea that this is an unauthorized message, so and would treat this as a second and different funds transfer request from user A. So therefore user C would get the benefit of the funds transfer twice, once authorized, once through a replay attack. So very simple example would be, for example, you have gone to Amazon.in and you made a transaction, right? And you always get messages that don't share your CVV and PIN with anyone, right? So we will never call you, the banks tell you. But if someone calls you and someone gives that PIN, what might happen? When you are, if he has the access to your debit card number and all, he might enter that CVV and he might get access to all your money, right? So this is and he can do it again and again. So this is what a replay attack, right? So you might have heard that in news or somewhere that first 10,000 were debited, then 5,000, then 12,000, then 20,000 and so on. So this is what the attacker was using, the same sequence again and again. So it is a type of what? Replay attack, and it comes under what? Active attacks. So then we have alteration. So alteration means what? Changing the message. So alteration of messages involves some change to the original message. So for example, I said transfer $1,000 to D's account to bank B. So user C will capture this again and change it to transfer $10,000 not to D's account but to C's account. So he is again changing the message. So it is what? Active attack. So note that both the beneficiary and the amount have been changed. Instead, only one of these could have also caused alteration of the message. So even if only one is changed, then also it is alteration of message attack, which is a type of active attack. So then we have denial of service, DOS attacks. So what are those? These attacks make an attempt to prevent legitimate users from accessing some services which they are eligible for. For instance, an unauthorized user might send too many login requests to a server using random user IDs in quick succession, so as to flood the network and deny other legitimate users to use the network facilities. This is what is usually done by some countries. I will not name them. So what they do, they will take some website which is very famous, for example Facebook.com. So what they will do, they will purposely attack them with hundreds to crores of username, IDs and passwords which are not even correct. So since the server is getting bombarded by so many requests in a single instant, so it might go down. So that is what denial of service attack. So then we proceed to the next topic, which is security services. So what we study here, the International Telecommunication Union Telecommunication Standardization Sector. It is an international body, abbreviated as IUT, and standard is called as X.800. It has defined 5 services related to the security goals and attacks we defined in the previous slide. So as I said, we'll just study the principles of security and attacks, then we'll see how to tackle them. So we are starting with that now. So to tackle this, we have the security services, that how to keep the data confidential, how to keep the data integrable, how to keep authentication, how to achieve non-repudiation, how to achieve access control. So there are different types in them, right? So anti-change, anti-replay, peer entity, data origin, proof of origin and proof of delivery. So let's see this. So first service is data confidentiality. So data confidentiality is designed to protect data from disclosure attack. That is, your message should not be disclosed everywhere. So the service encompasses confidentiality of the whole message or part of a message, and also protection against traffic analysis. So these are attacks happening on what? Confidentiality, those we saw previously. So that is, it is designed to prevent snooping and traffic analysis attack. Okay. Next is data integrity, means the data should not be changed. So it is designed to protect data from modification, insertion, deletion. So these are all changing of messages. So it is designed to protect from this, and replaying by an adversary or opponent, it means. So it may protect the whole message or part of the message only, depending on the strictness. So then we have authentication. So this service provides the authentication of the party at the other end of the line. So in connection oriented communication, it provides authentication of the sender or receiver during the connection establishment. So this is what peer entity authentication. In connectionless communication, it authenticates the source of the data. So that is what data origin authentication. So next, non-repudiation. So we have discussed this many times. What we say is giving a check to person B. So but later on when the bank debits that amount, he says that I have not done this, right? So this is what repudiation. But he cannot deny that he has not said that. Why? Because he has given a check which bears his signature, right? So this is what non-repudiation. So non-repudiation service protects against repudiation by either the sender or the receiver of the data. For example, simple example is in terms of sender and receiver is what WhatsApp. We get a blue tick means what he has read the message, right? So we can say that the sender has read, the receiver has read the message, right? So in non-repudiation with proof of the origin, the receiver of the data can later prove the identity of the sender if denied. So in the same way we can prove this in WhatsApp, proof of origin. In non-repudiation with proof of delivery also with blue tick we can prove it. So next is access control. So it provides protection against unauthorized access to data. So the term access in this definition is very broad and can involve what? Reading, writing, modifying. So I gave the example of Google Docs or Google Sheets. You might give only view rights or editing rights. So that is what access control. So next, for these services, ITUT also recommends some security mechanisms to provide the services defined in the previous section. So we have these services, but how to provide these services? So using the security mechanism. So these are 8 security mechanisms. So let's see them. So security mechanisms: encipherment, hiding or covering data can provide confidentiality, right? So what we are doing, we are encrypting now. So this is what hiding or covering data and can provide confidentiality. Today 2 techniques, cryptography and steganography, are used for enciphering. So what is cryptography? In Greek it means secret writing, right? So this is the old parlance we used to say, right? But today how we use it? We use it in symmetric key encipherment, asymmetric key encipherment and hashing. So this we'll see in details when we actually start with the techniques. So then we, apart from cryptography, we have steganography. It means covered writing. Means we are covering our data by something, right? So these are the 2 techniques. So then we have, so first we saw encipherment. Now we are seeing data integrity. So what is data integrity? It appends to the data a short check value. So you might have heard about cyclic redundancy check, something like that. So that check value has been created by specific process from the data itself. You don't have to append it using some other mechanisms. The data itself, from the data itself, the check value is, we get it. The receiver receives this data and the check value. So what it does, he creates a new check value from the received data and compares the newly created check value and with the one received. So if the 2 check values are same, the integrity of data has been preserved, right? Next is digital signature. So I will not go into detail of this because this is a separate 10 marks question. So we will see this detail in the coming lectures. But in short, what is it? It is a means by which the sender can electronically sign the data and the receiver can electronically verify the signature. So if you have seen your parents filling the income tax return, so usually they have they have the digital signature there, right? So that is the example of digital signature. Next, in authentication exchange, 2 entities exchange some messages to prove their identity to each other. For example, one entity can prove that she knows a secret that only she is supposed to know, right? For example, what people do today when they are talking on WhatsApp, everyone has access to one's mobile, right? So what they will say, you send me a specific symbol from the emoticons which we always use, right? Or they have some code words. So it can be a loose example of authentication exchange. Then traffic padding. So what does it say? It is padding something to the original data. Means inserting some bogus data into the data traffic to thwart the adversary's attempt to use the traffic analysis. So we are trying to fool the attacker. So then routing control means what? Selecting and continuously changing different available routes between the sender and the receiver to prevent the opponent from eavesdropping on a particular route. So you might have heard about Tor browser. What is happening there? We usually use Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, etc. Right? But some people are very concerned about their privacy. So what they use Tor browser. What does Tor browser do? it will, once you type in a website, it will route that website address to various countries, for example Germany, Netherlands, etc., and then it will send you the data, so no one can trace you. So that is the example of routing control. So next, finally, we have notarization. So it means what? Selecting a third trusted party to control the communication between two entities. So if we are buying a house, or if we are renting a house, what we do? We do notary, or we do a agreement, right? So it is done by a lawyer. So that is what example of notary. So this can be done, for example, to prevent repudiation. The receiver can involve a trusted party to store the sender request in order to prevent the sender from later denying that she has made such a request. So this can be what? The agreement. So then finally, access control. We have already seen this. So it uses methods to prove that a user has access right to the data or resources owned by a system. So examples of proofs are what? Passwords and pins. So this help in access control. So then finally, what is the relation between various security services and mechanisms? So what is it? So we have the 5 services. Confidentiality. So it is related with encipherment and routing control. Means encipherment provides what? Data confidentiality, because we are encrypting the message. Then encipherment will also provide integrity, because it is encrypted, so no one will be able to access it. For example, in WhatsApp, you see your messages with this contact are end-to-end encrypted, right? So you are sure that whatever has been typed by your contact, same you have received. So that is confidentiality as well as integrity. So again, it is authentication. So if you have your own SIM card in your smartphone, then only you will be able to access that, right? Then digital signature, data integrity and authorization mechanisms are giving what? Non-repudiation, and access control mechanism obviously gives access control. Okay. So here I have used the references from these 2 books, Atul Kahate, and for services and mechanisms I have used Forauze. So for extra details you can refer them. But as I said, from exam point of view, these PPTs are enough. Okay.